Morning everyone, I'm Rob Holdway. I'm working as an Innovation Director within Co-Innovate. I'm going to talk a bit about my world, a bit about the role of Brunel University of working with industry, and then a relationship between innovation and intellectual property, the two things inextricably linked if you want to run a successful business. That's going to be a fairly common theme throughout the day. I actually also run an environmental consultancy, have done since 1998. I've worked with some of the world's biggest brands, from Formula One team right the way through to Dell and Deloitte and people like that, and also with a lot of startup businesses. And IP, I'm not an ersatz environmental scientist or an IP attorney. I'm an industrial designer by background, but the point is, IP comes into my world quite often, so I'm going to talk about that as well. And of course about me, my favourite subject. So we have an agenda, and I'm notorious, so Hayley, shut me up when we have a great line of speakers, and we have some very, very impressive people with backgrounds and real life experience. So today, you're a diffuse set of people with a diffuse set of backgrounds. So it's very important you network and talk to each other as well. For those of you who are pre-registered for the IP audit, you'll have the opportunity to have a discussion with one of the MSc students and one of the senior lecturers here as well, and you will have an advice letter as well. That's worth a lot of money. You should see how much Hayley charges an hour, and Margaret, well, crikey. Anyway, but you get the point. We'll aim to have a break about 11:15, and then we'll have some lunch as well about 12:30, and then the audits. Co-Innovate is a European Regional Development funded project in collaboration with Brunel University, and the basic essence of the actual programme, which has been running for over 3 years now, is to basically access for SMEs in London to access the brilliant Brunel researchers, academics and students. There's a significant longitudinal relationship Brunel has with industry. It's something we're particularly strong at, both for large companies and SMEs. So if any of you are interested, and I know some of you already worked with Brunel students in the past, if any of you are interested in a potential dissertation project or an undergraduate project, then there's a very good opportunity to do that. And it could be anything from computer science to industrial design engineering, market insights and understanding, business planning, robotics, biomimicry, biomorphism, etc. A broad range of excellent world-leading expertise. And if I was going, actually it's been recorded this, isn't it? Brunel is brilliant at telling everyone about it. There you go. Co-Innovate, by the way, if you're interested, here's a book which is a digest of 30,000 hours worth of collaboration with industry in the previous iteration of this project. We have two projects going, by the way. One is working with established SMEs, and Bridging the Gap is about building a relationship with startup SMEs as well. And in the back corner there we have Andy Cripps, who's the Innovation Entrepreneur Director for Bridging the Gap. So if you're a startup, please do talk to Andy. If you're interested in collaboration, talk to me as well. We also have some of my favourite students are here, and Hayley's favourite students are here as well. MSc Integrated Design students and also Brunel Law students. And I'd like to also thank the Law School for helping hugely with this activity. So just a bit of context. So maximising innovation with intellectual property, you have to also think about the context within what anything fits within your business. So we know that 86% of small businesses said it's important, the knowing doing gap is important, but they don't understand where IP can sit within their business. And there's little evidence, according to the Intellectual Property Office, about companies creating actual holistic IP strategy. So they might think about it in a very narrow way, a trademark, for instance, and not a patent. Or some people think about it as a patent, they think it's hugely complex and forget some of those other elements. We've got some hugely qualified people here to talk about that today. The other thing is, this is an award winner for the Design Innovation in Plastics Awards. This is Alex, last year's Brunel student. We like to sing our praises, but he won this award. Mandy and I are both judges on that panel, have been for 6 years. But an inherent part of that judging criteria is intellectual property. Demonstration that you've actually looked for prior art when you're designing something, and it's often not done, and students don't know what to do about it. So this is a great competition. It's one of the few that actually integrates intellectual property within the generative process and the evaluation process. Brunel also has an Engineering Physical Science Research Council previous award, and I didn't know about this until recently actually. In large organisations you find out some bloody good stuff going on, you go, hang on a minute, this is really good. And this was actually looking at prior art within the invention and engineering phase of development. Professor Mark Atherton, Professor David Harrison at Brunel, Imperial College were involved, Mitsubishi and Crown Packaging, again looking at how engineers and designers can use prior art as a generative process, an informative process when looking for ideas, as well as validating what you're doing. And it becomes patently obvious, without using a pun, that that's a sensible thing to do. You can spend a whole load of time doing something, and then you go, hang on, someone else has already done this, and not only that, they've protected it. So if you're thinking about a lead time to market, it's really important you think about IP from the outset, and that's what this research was looking at doing. And we'd be very interested in talking to companies about furthering that. The other thing I point you to, because if I run out of time, it's important to get these things. We also have the brilliant undergraduate and postgraduate design students. Brunel's one of the best design schools in the world that's generally recognised. And each year we have a major degree show, and here's a digest of the students' work, which we held at Oxo Tower in London. So if any of you are interested, you'll all be invited. I suggest you come along and see the future designers of the world. Very impressive work, huge amount of effort. So I was just going to give a historical context. Without being treading on any IP specialist toes, I always get a smile from Hayley. But these are things as a designer that I've come up against. And you think about the effort that companies do into defining their own proposition, the reason for being, and what the efficacy of their business is about. And then you think, well, why don't they protect it? Or if they're not understanding what the risk is of going down that road, and then having someone else say, well, that's my IP, you've got to cease and desist. So it's really important. The first trademark, Bar at Folie Bergère, Edward Monet, and you can see at the bottom right is the Basque logo on the bottle. It's the first sort of recognition of a trademark being important in showing off to the potential customers there's certain values and quality associated with your product, manifest in a two-dimensional logo and typeface. Does anyone know what the relevance of this Pantone colour might be currently in the news? No, non-law students.
Cadbury's.
Brilliant. Considering you are an expert in that, that's very good. Well, Stephen said Kit Kat. That's another one. This is Cadbury's, and you've seen recently, 1914 they've been associated with this colour. And of course, branding, a lot of it is about the other associations, the tactical elements, and colours are a very important one. They've been in the court, keeping the lawyers very well fed and watered for a long period of time. And it's not a great academic reference to the Daily Mail online, but it's the second most read newspaper in the world, so this is what people are being fed. So you can actually track these things longitudinally, and they'll probably be back in the courts again and again. But you can see the importance of how much effort these companies go to protect something which might be seen as something trivial. This is quite a nice one, the Evening Standard. I collect all these things. I'm delighted that another brand thief has been reformed, and this is the co-founder of the Easy Group talking about Carrefour using the retailer orange logo. So Carrefour versus Easy Group. You'd never think that they might be arguing about stuff, but again, this is in the Evening Standard. You know, a brand thief stealing our brand. Very important. I just signposted these. You know, Donald Trump is obviously going down a particular route. I haven't mentioned Brexit yet. Oh, damn, I have. But Trump is obviously fair game for pretty most things. But again, in the news, the trade war, the constant mentioning of intellectual property. For a more balanced argument, you could read what's in this month's Economist, talking about what China's doing now in terms of taking intellectual property seriously. So again, the fluff versus what's really going on. But protecting stuff in China is becoming, that's what they're really working towards. Think about Japan a few decades ago and how they've come forward. So again, very important, but there's always a balanced argument here. The other thing I point you to is this research by the Intellectual Property Office, and you know, the design economy in the UK is worth about 6% of the total economy. Massive. Logistics and construction combined. So important designers. Yet very few designers and design right owners are proactive about protecting their intellectual property. So the IPO is trying to do more, but business has to take responsibility for that, and that's why we're here today. Do you agree, Mandy?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Spot on.
Oh, by the way, if you disagree with anything, I quite like an argument and a fight. So actually, so do those three, so it's all good. The other thing, I don't need to go into this too much detail, I'm signposting, you'll get these slides, but actually if you look at the cost of developing drugs and the cost of doing the stuff at the moment, if you look at the global market and IPR, 5 to 7% of the world trade is counterfeit, particularly in pharmaceuticals. And there's been a lot of news about pharmaceuticals and their availability to the NHS. And part of the problem for major drug manufacturers is they've got a massive development funnel, billions, 2.4 billion or 2.5 billion is the average cost of developing a drug. And then, of course, a lot of the world's trade and the counterfeiting is a massive issue for them, and it has wider societal impacts as well, because they don't get the returns, therefore can't reinvest in their businesses and R&D in the same way. But if you look at it at a global level, it's absolutely significant. And some of you are small companies in the room, or most of you are, but who knows? Hewlett-Packard started in a shed, so who knows? We might have the future corporates here. But it's quite important, all these things. The other thing, if you look at the S&P 500 market value, that pretty much 84% of the value is covered by intangible assets. 50% of those are protected. So the intangible assets of your business, particularly the new digital economy, is really important to think about as well, and how are you protecting those? So you need an IP strategy, you need a plan, you need to integrate it into your business planning. That's really important. I don't care if you're a startup, a 3-month-old business, or whether you've been established for 5 years. These things are really important. The other thing about, just there's a provocation here on this slide, which is about protecting innovation, doesn't necessarily mean going down on a patent or a specific route. Other companies actually use lead time, speed to market, and iteration, and they don't bother protecting stuff because they know that the product's not going to be on the market long enough, and they move quickly. So there are other strategies. I just want to make that clear from an innovation management perspective as well. But of course, if you look here, the relationship, large companies are much better at it than SMEs by nature of their business, of course. So you need to recognise what IP you have or continue to create and use within your business. What business value depends on which IP. So what's really important for your business as an asset, and then protect it. Link to what you do on a day-to-day in creating value. If it's about a brand, if it's about actual technology, you need to focus on that. And then what are the risks and opportunities, and how may you mitigate those as well. An IP strategy is very important. The other provocation is that most of the design spend and costs are developed at the concept development stage. So when you're developing new products and services, or if you start a business, that's the time to really be thinking about it, not sometime downstream. So you've done all the engineering, you've configured everything, you've worked out what the market value is and the value proposition. You've launched it, and then you go, oh, we should protect this. You've got to do it at the concept development stage, really important, because it's an opportunity. And this is signposting this is the double diamond method. I'm just signposting it so you can look up these things. This is Innovate UK. I've assessed Innovate UK bids. Some of you might have won on that money. It's one of the main vehicles for government getting funding into industry. And they use the double diamond method, and they have the 4 stages as described here as well. So when you're in the discovery and definition phase of what you're trying to do, doing the right thing and doing the right thing well, you need to think about where IP fits within that. Most companies I've been into, like environmental stuff, when I see their innovation process, I don't see where environment is, and I don't see where IP is. It's not explicit with engineers. I work with a lot of engineering teams. If I mention IP, often that's our legal team's responsibility, and that's wrong. So the worst thing you can be doing in business is to do well the things you shouldn't be doing in the first place. You could do badly the things you should be doing in the first place. So this is Chris Knight of Lotus. He said when they actually won the gold medal, great, carbon fibre bike, but they were an engineering consultancy. Their core competency was an engineering business. And they developed this. Chris Borman won the gold medal, but they nearly went out of business. And the only thing that saved them was their understanding of carbon fibre. So you've got to do what you do well and stick to it and understand it. It's really important. Don't do the wrong thing well. There's the Museum of Failure. So I was waiting to get I could do a whole thing with Trump images, I can tell you. Although we're completely impartial here. This is Donald Trump's game. Yes, he did have a board game. It's worth quite a lot of money now, by the way. Time magazine, one of the top 10 Donald Trump failures and one of Trump's ridiculous ideas. This is a great game if you don't have very many friends. That was one of my favourite reviews. But this obviously wasn't successful. But this comes from the Museum of Failure. Go to the Museum of Failure in Sweden. It's absolutely brilliant. And of course, 72% of product innovations flop. The actual statistic is Harvard Business Review. Roughly about 3.5 out of 10 products that are launched achieve expected return on investment. So you've got to, out of 10 of you in here, 3.5 of you are likely to succeed, to expect what you achieve in return. That's the statistics of innovation. That's why it's a really risky pursuit. The ultimate risk, of course, is not doing it. And then, of course, I think IP attorneys in the legal community also have a responsibility, in my view. Just because you've got an idea and no one else has done it, doesn't mean you should protect it. So does anyone know what this is? Is it an electric hot water bottle, a wearable device to reduce high blood pressure, or a portable bathtub? Who thinks it's an electric hot water bottle? Great. Oh, good. Wearable device to reduce high blood pressure? You see, the rest of you are guessing. Yep, 1972's top submission, 1904. It is a portable bathtub. Look at the drawing. At what point would someone say, oh, has this been done before? Yes, someone tried to do this in 1904. Well, let's revisit this, because it's obviously a bloody good idea. Oh, and let's get a patent on it as well. So there is a responsibility in owners to go, don't do the wrong thing well. Well, this is doing the wrong thing badly. I found this one as well, which, Bill's gone, but I've never built like this. I'm going to walk around campus. This is a beer umbrella. This is to protect it in case it's raining, or if it's a bit hot outside, you might want to protect your beer. Now, I don't know about, I live in Brighton, I can tell you, beers do not last long enough to need a bloody umbrella to protect them. I need one for me when I'm slumped on the beach, but anyway, it's been recorded. I don't drink, by the way. Anyway, can anyone guess what this is? Have a guess. Someone have a guess. What do you think it could possibly be? This is a drawing from their patent.
Door label?
A door label. Yeah, it's not obvious what it is it? Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's actually a urinal headrest. Now, with the beer Bella, but we could do a whole bloody thing on this. These are the submitted drawings. This is, and if you need a headrest, I mean, we've all been in that position, I know. But the one on the right is throwing you in the shower, so you can hang in the shower. I was more worried that he was not using any hands. I mean, no wonder there's such a mess in the toilets. But this is patented in the US. What the hell is going on? So again, there's a quid pro quo. I know it's an easy thing to do to use ridiculous things. But in the innovation and development process, it's about screening ideas. Coming up with ideas is easy. Coming up with good ideas that fit the context, the incipient demand, the technology. That's what innovation is about. It's what design's about. And part of that is then coming up with something you can ultimately protect, of course. Not that. So just to finish off, I think there are lessons for design. I think there's lessons for designers here, and I'm targeting you guys with this sort of stuff. For most of human history, the essential nature of creativity was understood to be cumulative and collective. So there is also think about adaptive creativity theory. There's a big pursuit within the design community and within design education to do novelty. Oh, where did this idea come from? I thought of it myself. Oh, no one else has done this. No, it's mine. I thought of this all myself. There's that pursuit of novelty. And creativity in industry isn't all about that, because that suggests everything's radical. And that can be very dangerous and life-threatening for the commercial success of your business too. I have written about this in Blueprint over 3 years, and we've talked about hopeful monsters. And this is a picture of Scott Gardner's photograph of a toad with its eyes in its mouth. And this is my image of how I see a lot of products and stuff even on the shelves in shops. It's a biological mutation, so it can take a really good close look at what it's eating. It might survive for a bit, but it's not going to offer anything to the evolutionary survival of our species, let alone a company. So it's quite a nice metaphor for how most designs don't work and most designs fail, protected or not. So the summary is, investments in design should be protected. IPR should sort of influence design thinking at the start of the process, not the end. Infringement should be avoided, of course. IPR increases the security and value of your business, in case you want to exit as well. Secrecy and confidentiality are crucially important, and it has to be done incrementally, longitudinally, and be prepared to protect your assets. And I'll just finish with something that happened to me in my business. I've got a few stories, we've all got them, but this is one I can share. I had a disagreement with a guy about who owned the IP of a particular thing that we did, which ended up being presented by Colin Firth to David Attenborough. So that's how important I consider this to be. This guy was quite arrogant, he was a client, and I decided that he owed me money and I didn't want him to have it. And his response was, oh, Rob, I've done this, this, and this, and I'm the big, it's being recorded, you get the idea. And he said, I've been involved in more IP cases than you can possibly imagine. And I said, well, I'm not an IP lawyer, but I've got a friend called Mark who's an IP attorney, and it'll cost me 4 pints of beer. And it annoyed me, and I said, you can't have my IP, you will pay us for what we've done, and it's going to cost me 4 pints, your decision. It did cost me 4 pints. They had to employ a law firm, and this was their response. That well, you can see what it says. I've consulted the solicitors. I'm comfortable that we don't basically owe you the money. We haven't broken any contract, blah, blah, blah. A week later, this is the response. Notwithstanding the content of my current correspondence, I'm prepared to offer the sum of £18,000, blah, blah, blah. More importantly, I didn't want him to own it, because he thought he did. And they not only paid, they didn't get to use it, and I was able to then do what I wanted with that. This is 2006, but we were a small business then, very small. 18 grand was quite a lot of money to us. So I was willing to fight and protect it. Now I was lucky because I had a mate, but we have experts here, and we have experts around. This network's really important. They can give you some advice that might help you do that. But if you've got IP, we're going to hear from Anne later, and you believe in it, then be prepared to fight for it. Sounds aggressive, doesn't it? But it's business. So there are other things, and I'm showing these out to our experts as well, actually, because I'm not experts in these as well. We have expertise at Brunel in these, but I was thinking about other things that are changing the dynamics of maybe the way IP is managed, but also the way business is being operated. Blockchain, artificial intelligence, queryable theory. Some nice stuff going on at a planetary level about queryable theory, mapping the whole planet, loads of data. Who owns that data? Where's the IP? 3D printing and digital specialization, reuse and remanufacturing, what happens there within the circular economy? Crowdsourcing ideas, which happens a lot. And what about crowdfunding as well? So I can see there's a nice that's my provocation for maybe some of the future of where things are going. Obviously, you're all experts in anyway. So thank you very much. I'm now going to hand over to Hayley.
Should we give you a clap?